My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 32, and despite building a career that most would envy, I've never once felt like enough in my father's eyes. The annual Whitmore family dinner was coming up, and this year, I dreaded it more than usual. I had bought my father a luxury car, a last-ditch attempt at closing the emotional distance between us. What I didn't realize then was that in my purse sat a quiet bombshell, one that would shatter everything I believed about who I was. And by the end of the night, I would finally understand the real reason he never looked at me with love. I was raised in a wealthy suburb outside of Halston, in a family that looked polished on the outside but frayed at the seams behind closed doors. My father, Graham Carter, built his wealth in high-rise development and made sure everyone knew it. He valued power, prestige, and performance above all else, including his family. He wasn't the kind of father who came to school plays or taught me how to ride a bike. He was the man who would ask why I got a 93 instead of a 100. The one who said, if you're not first, you're last, like it was some ancient family motto. My mother, Lorraine, was softer, but only when he wasn't in the room. Around him, she shrank. She never challenged him, never defended us, never pushed back when his words bruised more than our egos. It wasn't until I got older that I realized she didn't just submit. She was surviving. Every time her eyes flicked toward him before answering a question, I saw it. Fear wrapped in routine. My siblings and I were shaped inside that storm. My brother Jacob, 3 years older, was the golden child from birth. He played quarterback, dated the dean's daughter, and followed Dad into the family firm after graduating from his alma mater. He always seemed to know what would earn our father's praise, while I was left guessing. My younger sister, Leela, was 2 years behind me and somehow floated through that house with ease. She didn't have Jacob's ambition, but she had something else, charm. She knew how to read a room, to sense Dad's moods before they shifted. She became the peacemaker, the one who soothed the wounds he left behind. But me, I fought. Not with words, but with achievements. I graduated valedictorian, turned down Halston University, his beloved alma mater, for a full scholarship at Prescott College. He saw it as a betrayal. During summers, while I juggled waitressing and internships, he asked why I wasn't chasing hedge funds. When I declined his half-hearted offer to join the company, he called it foolish pride. I moved to New York with a duffel bag and a dream, slept on a friend's sofa, and clawed my way into the finance world. When I landed a position at Barclay and Wyatt, he said, "Let's see if you make it past probation." I did. 8 years later, I was named the youngest senior investment strategist in the firm's history. My new salary allowed me to buy my dream apartment. But more than that, it let me buy the car, a black Halifax S90, top of the line, the one he once admired at a golf club party. I told myself this would be the turning point, that he'd look at me, really see me, and maybe, just maybe, call me his daughter with pride in his voice. The car cost more than most people make in a year. But I wasn't buying a vehicle. I was still trying to buy what I'd never had, a father's unconditional love. The Whitmore reunion always took place the last weekend of June, conveniently wrapped around Father's Day, his unofficial coronation. This year, I decided to make an entrance, not just with the car, but with the full illusion of having finally arrived. I spent weekends searching for the perfect dress, not too flashy, not too plain, just the right blend of elegance and restraint. I chose navy silk, subtle gold accessories, and heels that whispered power without screaming for attention. It was absurd, really. A grown woman dressing up to audition for her own father's approval. But that's what it was, a performance. And I've been rehearsing my whole life. Each past reunion played in my mind like an old film. When I brought home a math trophy, he said debate would have been more useful. When I graduated with honors, he called finance a gamble, not a real profession. When I got promoted, he asked if it was for diversity optics. No one ever stayed whole for long. But this year, I had something else in my purse. 3 months earlier, I'd done a casual DNA test just out of curiosity. What I found wasn't just unexpected, it shattered something. The markers didn't match. Not with Graham Carter. Not even close. I told myself it had to be a mistake, but I couldn't let it go. During a visit home, I took a sample from his old hairbrush. The second test confirmed it. He wasn't my biological father. The results were in an envelope, still sealed, still heavy with possibility. I hadn't decided whether to say anything, but I carried them anyway, because some part of me already knew, and had known for a very long time. The day before the reunion, I picked up the Halifax from the dealership and drove it to my parents' estate in Halston Heights. I timed it carefully, mid-afternoon, when Mom would be at her garden club and Dad would likely be home alone. He answered the door wearing a crisp polo and khakis, like always. His expression said everything before he opened his mouth. "You're early," he said, glancing at his watch as if I'd violated some unspoken appointment slot. "I know," I replied. "I wanted to give you your Father's Day gift privately." I handed him a small box. He opened it slowly, eyebrows raising when he saw the car key and its unmistakable emblem. "Is this a joke?" he asked, his voice flat. "Come see," I said, leading him to the window. The car gleamed in the driveway, polished and perfect. He blinked, surprise flickering across his face before settling into suspicion. "This is excessive, Evelyn," he muttered. "What are you trying to prove?" "Nothing," I lied. "I just wanted to do something special." He walked outside, circled the car like he was evaluating a property, asked about insurance, taxes, financing, every detail except the gesture itself. He test drove it briefly, then parked it in the garage, out of view. His thank you was barely audible, immediately followed by, "You must be doing very well to throw money around like this." It was like watching someone build a dam to hold back any semblance of praise. Later that evening, I sat in my hotel room, staring at the ceiling, phone pressed to my ear. Taylor, my best friend and therapist by default, listened as I vented. "Take the car back," she said flatly. "He doesn't deserve it." I just thought maybe this time. "No, Evie, he won't change. Stop trying to buy what should have been free." I promised I wouldn't show him the test, but the envelope still sat in my purse, a ticking, silent truth. The next day dawned bright and too perfect. Sunshine, breeze, birdsong. All the aesthetics of an ideal family event. I took the long route to my parents' estate, rehearsing answers to inevitable questions about why I wasn't married, didn't have kids, and spent so much time working. As I turned down the familiar tree-lined driveway, I noticed the Halifax, parked right in front of the house. Not tucked away anymore, positioned for maximum visibility. So he had changed his mind, not about me, but about the optics. That car was no longer a gift. It was a prop in his performance. I stepped out, smoothed my dress, and walked to the door. Mother greeted me with a soft, worried smile. "You look beautiful, darling," she said, touching my cheek. "Your father's out back with the Montgomery Group." That was her way of saying, "Prepare yourself." Inside, the house buzzed with orchestrated chaos. Aunts, uncles, family friends, most of them orbiting around my father like satellites. Aunt Celia kissed both cheeks and launched into questions about my love life. Uncle Grant called me Wall Street's finest, which I knew would irritate my father if he heard. Cousins hovered in predictable packs, each year older, but still playing their old roles. Then, like clockwork, my father entered with his business entourage. They laughed at something likely mediocre. He surveyed the room with performative warmth, offering nods to VIPs and faint smiles to the rest. His eyes landed on me. No smile. Just a slight stiffening of his jaw before he turned and whispered something in Mom's ear. No greeting. No acknowledgement. I stayed planted, talking to cousin Miranda about her hospital rotation, pretending not to care, pretending it didn't still sting. Mom reappeared moments later. Darling, she whispered, come meet the Sullivans. They're back from a finance summit in Tokyo. They'd love to hear about your promotion. This was how she protected me, using social decorum to deflect emotional grenades. Jacob arrived fashionably late, with his perfect wife and perfect children. Dad greeted him with a warm clap on the back. That car out front, Jacob said, when did you upgrade? Sometimes you treat yourself, son, Dad replied, beaming. Success has its rewards. No mention of me. No acknowledgement of the gift. I stood still, hands clenched around my wine glass. Leela appeared and hugged me tightly. I heard about the promotion. That's incredible, Evie, she whispered. Her sincerity almost undid me. Then she added something that stuck. You know he'll never say what you want to hear. Not because you're not enough, but because he's not capable. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. Because deep down, I already knew she was right. The hour before dinner played out like a rerun I couldn't stop watching. The family moved into the formal living room, where the furniture was elegant and intentionally uncomfortable. Mother's antique tastes had been filtered through father's need for dominance, everything chosen for effect, not warmth. I sat near the window with my second glass of wine, half listening, half watching the show unfold. Jacob held court at the center, spinning tales of a shopping complex he was turning into luxury lofts. Father nodded proudly, then declared, that's the Carter instinct, seeing opportunity where others see failure. It's in the blood. I almost laughed. The irony nearly choked me. I shifted in my seat, my hand brushing the envelope in my purse, the one that said, in clinical terms, that I didn't share that blood, that I was an outlier, a genetic ghost inside the Carter legacy. The room turned toward me next. Uncle Peter asked about my new role, senior investment strategist. Before I could speak, Father cut in. A decent stepping stone, he said with a shrug. Finance is volatile. Property lasts. He pivoted back to Jacob without waiting for my reply. I took a slow breath, then said evenly, actually, we outperformed the market by 22 points last quarter. The risk model I built is now standard across the firm. A beat of silence. Then the inevitable. Paper numbers, Father replied, waving a hand. When the market crashes, we'll see what's left. He turned to his business partner. What's your take on the zoning changes downtown? I excused myself, walking to the makeshift bar in the dining room. That's when I heard it. His voice, drifting through the half-open study door, talking about the car, not as a gift, but as a trophy. When you work hard, you earn the right to luxury, he said to Walter Montgomery. Walter responded, Elena mentioned it was a promotion gift from your daughter. She's done well for herself. A pause. Then Father's reply. She's always been hungry for attention. All that success, it comes from what I gave her. The schools, the example, the values. Each word erased me. Each sentence rewrote my story with his name on the cover. I walked away before they saw me. Somewhere between rage and clarity. Near the hall, Jacob intercepted me. Elena, a word. He pulled me toward Mother's orchid display, lowering his voice. I hear you've been asking Mom odd questions about her college days. What exactly are you looking for? I blinked. He was sharper than he looked. I just wanted to know more about her. I replied evenly. She lived a whole life before any of us existed. He narrowed his eyes. Whatever you're digging for, drop it. You're disrupting the family order. He said it like it was sacred. I looked him in the eye. This order you're protecting, it's toxic. Dad built this. All of it. The name, the respect, Even your job stems from that foundation. Then why? I asked. Did he never include me in it? Before he could answer, Cousin Miranda appeared. Dinner's starting. Aunt Lorraine's looking for both of you. Jacob smiled the smile he used in boardrooms and family photos. Just catching up, he said. As he walked away, Miranda turned to me. You know, my mom always says your dad plays favorites like it's a competitive sport. She squeezed my arm. You've done more on your own than most of us with help. Her quiet affirmation pierced something I didn't know was still bleeding. We filed into the dining room, the Cathedral of Carter performance. A table that seated 20, adorned like royalty, was expected. Every name card placed with surgical precision. Mine was near the end, between a cousin's husband and a junior associate from father's firm. Jacob, of course, sat beside him. Leela floated mid-table with her husband. Mothers sat at the opposite end, equal in theory, distant in practice. As the first course arrived, father stood, wine glass in hand. Silence felt like it always did when he began to speak. Family, he said, smiling like a king, is a legacy. He toasted Jacob's expansion deal, Lila's board appointment, then paused, long enough for tension to bloom. I'm proud of all my children, he said, glass raised. Then added, without missing a beat, except for the loser sitting at the table. Laughter trickled down the line, some nervous, some confused, but not one person spoke up. I sat frozen, a lifetime of humiliations rising in my throat like acid. He kept talking about paper achievements versus real value, about loyalty, about tradition, about success that means something. Every word landed like a deliberate blow, and still, no one stopped him. For 20 long seconds, I didn't move. The room had fallen into a hush, broken only by the clink of silverware being carefully set aside, like everyone was trying to disappear behind their dessert plates. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I just stared at the man at the head of the table. The man who had spent 3 decades sculpting me into a version of success he would never recognize. He raised his glass again, offering some hollow toast to family unity. And in that moment, something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. I stood, slowly, deliberately. The movement alone caused every conversation to halt. I didn't raise my glass. I didn't smile. I simply spoke, my voice smooth from years of managing volatile clients and hostile boardrooms. Thank you, Father, for that illuminating toast. All eyes turned to me. Mother's face froze in alarm. Father's smile faltered. I've spent 32 years trying to earn your approval, chasing standards that move every time I get close to meeting them. The silence was electric, and today, I finally understand why. I could feel the weight of the envelope in my purse. Not just physical, but symbolic. For anyone keeping score, I continued lightly. I graduated top of my class from Prescott, built my career from the ground up, and became the youngest senior strategist in my firm's history. A few people shifted in their seats. A couple nodded slightly. But success in this house has never been about results, I said, eyes fixed on my father. It's about reflection. It's about marrying one man's vision or being discarded. I reached into my purse. The envelope was there, sealed and still pristine. I laid it on the table. In case you're wondering why I never fit, I said, why nothing I ever did was enough, it's right here. Jacob straightened. Mother gasped. Father's face went blank, the same mask he wore when negotiations went off script. I looked him in the eye and said, for you, Dad, Happy Father's Day. Then I turned and walked away, not fast, not dramatic, just with the quiet grace of someone who was finally done performing. The room erupted behind me, chairs scraping, voices overlapping in chaos. But I didn't stop. The foyer was empty and still. The cool night air hit me as I stepped outside. I walked to the Halifax, the same one he had proudly displayed just hours ago, like it was his own accomplishment. I took the spare key from my clutch. The car chirped softly as it unlocked. I slid into the driver's seat. It still smelled new, but also faintly like him. Cologne, leather, something expensive and empty. The engine came to life beneath my fingertips. Lights bloomed across the dashboard like it was welcoming me back. I reversed out of the driveway just as the front door burst open. He stood there, silhouetted in the light, waving the opened envelope in his hand. Mouth open in a silent shout I didn't need to hear to understand. I didn't stop, didn't look back again until the road bent away from the estate. The symmetry of it all hit me then. He'd used the car to impress others, to erase me. Now I was erasing the car from his story, taking back the gift, and with it, taking back my worth. By the time I checked into a hotel downtown, my phone had already started to explode with messages. First it was Leila, then Jacob, then Mother, then people I hadn't spoken to in years. I muted the phone but didn't turn it off, not ready to respond, but unwilling to look away from the wreckage. The view from my window overlooked Halston Bay. The water was still, deceptively calm. Inside, everything was unraveling. Hours passed before I listened to any of the voicemails. Lila's came first. She sounded breathless, panicked. Dad opened the envelope in front of everyone, she said, then started screaming for Mom. They locked themselves in the study. No one knew what to do. Jacob's furious. He's talking about suing over the car. Mom's crying. It's insane. The more composed the voices around me tried to sound, the more surreal it became. Then came Mother's texts. They started calm. Elena, please come home so we can talk. Then broke into, the test can't be right. There must be a mistake. Followed by, please come back. We need to discuss this, just us. Jacobs were pure venom. Return Dad's car immediately. And retract that disgusting accusation. I didn't reply, not yet. Not until I was ready. Not until I was clear on who I was now that their story no longer defined me. The next morning, I met Mother at a quiet cafe far from home. She looked like a different person, older, stripped of her usual polish. Eyes sunken from a night of crying. His name was Thomas, she said, her hands trembling around a cup of tea. Thomas Keller. We met in college. I loved him. My parents didn't approve. When they found out I was seeing someone from a working class family, they made me end it. She paused. I was already pregnant. Then I met Graham. He had offered security, legacy, respectability. She said yes, believing she could fold her past into silence. He promised to raise you as his own, she whispered. And for a while, I think he tried. But the older you got, the more you reminded him of Thomas, I said. She nodded. The way you questioned things, the way you looked at the world. Every word painted a picture of a man who had chosen to stay but never chose to love, and of a woman who let silence become her survival strategy. Why didn't you protect me? I asked. The question was soft, but sharp enough to bleed. She looked like I had hit her. I told myself you were strong, she said. I told myself you didn't need protection, that your drive would carry you. Her voice cracked. But the truth is, I failed you. Every time I let him diminish you, I failed you. There was no tidy ending to that conversation, no perfect reconciliation, but it was real, and that was new. 2 days later, I reached out to Thomas Keller, found him through old alumni records and a private investigator friend. He lived in California, owned a small engineering firm, married, 3 kids. I sent a brief email, told him I wasn't asking for anything, just truth. His reply came a day later. He was shocked, but kind, said he needed time, but wanted to meet me. that he'd be in New York next month for a conference. Maybe we could have coffee, he wrote, if that feels okay for you. There was no drama in his words, no weighty expectations, just curiosity. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, not as a burden, not as a reflection, but as a person. Meanwhile, Father sent a letter through his lawyer.formal.cold, demanding the car be returned, threatening defamation over paternity lies. I returned the Halifax without fanfare, had my lawyer handle it, the same lawyer who wrote back, simply noting, genetic facts are not defamatory. Jacob never reached out again. No surprise. His loyalty had always been to the name, not the people behind it. But Leela, she called daily. We talked like sisters who had finally pulled back the curtain on their shared stage. He built the rules, she said, then punished you for not playing his game. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. Those words mattered more than any inheritance ever could. 6 months passed. Therapy helped. So did time. So did truth. Mother and I began rebuilding, not from the roles we used to play, but from the people we actually were. When Thanksgiving came around, I went to Lila's house instead of the Carter estate. When she told Father I'd be there, he declined to attend. His absence didn't hurt. It felt like space being cleared. After dinner, Mom called. Her voice was steady. I'm proud of you, she said. Not for your title or your apartment, for your honesty, for your strength, for your heart. It was what I had always needed to hear, just from the wrong person for most of my life. The car I once bought for validation had been sold. The money reinvested, this time in myself, in my own place, in my own future. And maybe the most important change was this. I no longer measured my worth by the silence at someone else's table. I had found my voice, and I had used it. Family, I've learned, isn't blood. It's who shows up when the truth is ugly. It's who chooses you, not who claims you. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from those who never deserved the power you gave them. Not with vengeance, not with bitterness, but with clarity and peace.